if you're learning English, I think you've definitely felt this. I mean, this specific frustration.
Oh, yeah.
You spend just countless hours memorizing these really high-level, obscure vocabulary words. Things like esoteric or ubiquitous.
Right, the classic lists.
Exactly. And then you realize native speakers, well, they hardly ever use them. Or, and this is the important part, they just don't show up enough in texts to really matter.
It's the linguistic version of optimizing for the wrong thing. You're focused on the sheer number of unusual words you know, but the real challenge, the real difficulty in understanding advanced material isn't that single rare word, it's the structure.
Right. And you're still struggling to understand, say, a complex article or a lecture because you've missed something really important and subtle about how high-level English actually works.
That's the hidden truth.
And that hidden truth is what we are really getting into today. Welcome to this deep dive into the concept of collocations.
Words that just habitually and, naturally go together.
We're looking at a guide here that's designed to give you, the listener, a kind of shortcut, a secret pocket guide to the most critical word pairings you need to function at a really high academic and professional level.
And this is genuinely the key. I mean, so many learners hit a plateau because they can translate every single word in a sentence.
Yeah, word for word.
But the overall meaning is still, it's just muddy. Collocations are the glue. They provide the context, the tone. They're the difference between sounding like a dictionary and sounding like a real person.
The stakes are pretty high, but the mission is clear, really. It's about expanding your linguistic world. Goethe once said, "The limits of my language are the limits of my universe."
And Jim Rohn had a more practical take on that. If you have a limited vocabulary, you will also have a limited vision and a limited future.
And we believe that mastering these essential pairings, these collocations, is the direct path to unlocking that bigger universe.
So let's just tackle it head on. The weakness of focusing on that single high-level vocabulary word. Our research shows that the people who design standardized tests, well, they're smart. They know that candidates are just memorizing these long lists of words.
So they design around it.
They absolutely do. They deliberately create tests where that really obscure vocabulary is usually not central to the main idea. You can often skip that one rare word and still get the general message.
From the context.
From the context, exactly.
But the collocation is totally different. It's the ambush waiting for you. So how exactly do test writers use them to check for real comprehension?
Okay, so they use them because they are these meaning-packed units. They defy simple word-for-word translation. If you don't know the fixed pairing, you just can't guess its function.
Can you give an example?
Sure. A test might mention a company needing to implement a hiring freeze. Now, if you only know hiring and freeze literally...
You're thinking it's cold, so they stopped hiring people.
Exactly. But the collocation means they've stopped all recruitment, probably for budget reasons. The examiners are checking for that level of understanding, that contextual competence.
Wow, okay. That proves the point right there. Focusing on single words means you miss that whole packed meaning. Let's do a quick collocation check right now from the material.
Let's do it. Think about something really figurative, something you couldn't possibly guess.
Okay.
If someone is described as having an existential crisis, you know existential and you know crisis, but putting them together, that's a whole specific philosophical state of anxiety. You have to learn that as a single unit.
Or what about that powerful negative you mentioned? I'm afraid not.
Yes.
If I ask you, is the project finished?
Yeah.
And you say, I'm afraid not. You're not just saying no.
No, you're injecting this gentle, regretful tone. There's this subtle apology in there.
All in those three words.
Yeah.
You can't get that nuance with just a simple no.
And this is how they test for sophisticated understanding. It's that ability to grab those nuances instantly. Another great one for packed meaning is the phrase, about time. It's not just about, the duration of something. It expresses displeasure, impatience. If we finally get to the main point, you might say, well, it's about time.
Right. That bundled emotion is what makes it sound so authentic. It feels like the focus really needs to shift. Stop wasting time on the one in a million word.
And instead master the thousands of collocations that show up every single day in conversation, in articles, on exams. If you want that higher score, you have to focus on what the examiners are focusing on.
Okay, so before we move on to how these function in, say, professional language, I just want to say, if you're finding these insights valuable, please take a moment right now to like, share, and subscribe to this deep dive. Your support really does help us bring more of this analysis to you.
So moving into the practical side of things, the best method for learners is to be systematic.
Okay.
The materials we're looking at suggest organizing them alphabetically into these focused sets, almost like a quick reference dictionary. The whole structure is built for efficiency to cut down your prep time.
And to help you remember through, what, review and self-quizzing.
Precisely.
Let's talk more about that figurative side, because that's where I think you can get really lost if you're trying to translate word for word.
Absolutely. They often carry this deep, non-literal meaning that can just, completely derail your comprehension if you haven't learned it as a whole chunk.
Like what?
Well, think about common emotional descriptions. If someone says they're dealing with minor setbacks, they don't mean a small stone is in their path.
Right, they mean small, manageable problems.
Exactly. Or, on the other extreme, when someone gets so angry or upset they become unstable, we say they become unhinged.
Which, if you translate literally, sounds like a door fell off. The meaning is just gone.
It's totally lost.
That distinction is so important. I mean, imagine trying to explain black ice to someone. It has nothing to do with the color black.
Right, it's about it being invisible.
Or getting an invitation that says black tie. It's not about the color of your necktie. It's a whole dress code.
Yeah.
These pairings they're like cultural and linguistic shortcuts.
And that leads right into the workplace. Situational collocations. If a new employee is told, we're going to throw you in at the deep end.
They're not going for a swim.
No. Figuratively, it means they're being put into a complex job without much training, and they're just expected to adapt. That whole communication depends on understanding the unit deep end.
It really shows not just vocabulary, but cultural fluency.
Okay, let's shift a bit. Let's talk about how collocations make even simple, everyday actions sound natural. We use verbs like catch or do all the time.
All the time. But the pairings are fixed. Think about it. You don't get sick with a cold, you catch a cold.
Right.
When you wash your clothes, you do laundry. When you're looking for a ride, you might call a cab or catch a bus, but you don't really catch a cab. These little differences are what separate an advanced learner from a truly fluent speaker.
The guide even points out some more colloquial uses, like due time.
Yes, that's the compact, natural way to say someone is spending time in prison. It's common in conversation, but it's completely non-literal. And for anyone listening who's aiming for professional success, mastering these career collocations has to be essential.
Oh, it's huge. The language of employment is just full of them. You don't just look for a job, you apply for a job.
Your first job is an entry-level job.
And in a bad economy, the company might implement a hiring freeze. This is domain-specific fluency. It shows you belong.
What about expressions for effort? I sometimes hear learners say things like, I will try my hardest, which sounds a little bit clunky.
It does. The natural pairings are more subtle. You do someone's best, or you make an effort, and when you're studying, you study hard.
And what about influence?
We see it there, too. If an artist is really influenced by another, you'd say they draw heavily from that person's work.
And that phrase, draw heavily from, is so much more academic than just saying they were influenced by. It signals you're operating at that higher level, or if you recommend a colleague, you speak highly of someone.
Exactly. These fixed phrases signal fluency and precision. It just communicates dense ideas much faster.
Let's be honest for a moment about the learning process, though. Because we know that absorbing all of this is, well, it's hard.
It is.
Anyone tackling a new language is going to have to deal with those minor setbacks.
Yeah.
It's totally normal to feel nervous about a big exam or a job interview.
And we really want to show some empathy here. We get it. The biggest challenge isn't always the material itself, but the sheer volume of it. It can really take a toll on your focus, on your health.
Yeah.
This is why the materials emphasize balance so much. Staying organized, stay focused, and stay positive, making time for regular exercise, trying to keep fit. That's a non-negotiable part of the process when the mental demand is this high.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. But you have to think about the reward. Mastering these units of language, it directly improves your quality of life.
It does. It gives you easy access to complex information, whether that's the global news or, academic papers.
So mastery means you stop trying to make sense of sentences word by word.
And your comprehension just starts to flow. You get this huge confidence boost because you can instantly recognize irreparable damage in an article, or you know how to deal with the situation in a meeting without even thinking.
And it's important to remember, this is a group effort. Even if you're studying alone, the community is there.
Yeah.
Other learners, resources like this, we really want to see you exceed expectations.
So to just pull it all together, Collocations are the single most valuable thing to focus on for proficiency. They are the fixed units that test makers and native speakers rely on to get across rich, compact meaning. Whether it's a simple pairing like dead battery or something complex like an existential crisis, if you master these units, you bypass confusion and you just gain confidence.
We've looked at so many of these building blocks today,
Yeah.
from the really abstract all the way down to simple things like do laundry or using a can opener. And, it's funny how often the most critical phrases are about simple, everyday things.
Right.
So here's a thought for you to take away. What common, seemingly simple object or action like a piece of paper or drinking coffee do you use every day that you realize now is actually a fixed collocation? Just think about how deeply ingrained these pairings are in your own daily routine and how much meaning is packed inside them.
And we absolutely know that learning English is hard work. It takes dedicated free time and a huge amount of effort. But just remember, every quick bite of learning you do, every bit of focused effort, it is making a difference. You're not alone on this journey. Keep going. You're making real progress.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. If you enjoyed this analysis and you want more targeted knowledge to speed up your language journey, please like, share, and subscribe. It ensures you'll never miss another deep dive. We'll see you next time.